Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. Very tired Ask Amy for me. I'm just off a red-eye flight and it's so hard. Like you need to sleep a little bit when you get home, but you don't want to sleep too much and we'll see. So I have a great question today though from Sarah in Canada. So let me find Sarah's question here and I'll read it. Sarah says, "Hi Amy, my name is Sarah from Canada. I recently started to get acquainted with the new paradigm as a result of some pretty nasty inner experiences that are ongoing. I find thinking about your river metaphor really helpful. However, I'm wondering if thoughts brought to life through emotion and sensation are always flowing down the river. Where does that river go exactly? For me, it feels like it's being recycled as the same experiences keep coming up again and again and again. I recently read another author who wrote about anxiety in the body. He states that the sensitized body is always trying to heal itself, trying to get back to homeostasis, back to that peace and health. That releasing painful energy from time to time is part of the process by which the body heals itself from its sensitization. Does the new paradigm and river metaphor fit with this conceptual framework?" So this is a great question. Hold on, I lost you. There we are. It's a great question, Sarah, and I think it's really normal and really common to have that experience. Everyone has it at times, right? Especially, it seems, when we don't like, when our experience feels painful for us, that, okay, maybe it's flowing, maybe it's moving, but what good is that? Because it keeps coming back. I hear that all the time, right? Yeah, it changes, but then it just is going to come back later that day or later that week or maybe in the same day or the same minute or whatever. So there's this sense of, a little bit of sense of movement and flow and the fluidity of our experience that you can start to feel into, which is beautiful. It's amazing. But then our mind comes in and says, yeah, but it's just the same stuff keeps coming back. So I want you to kind of see if you can feel into how that may be true. There may be some, of course, I mean, we have brains that are very habitual for good reason. They keep us alive. They have to tell our heart to beat and tell our lungs to breathe habitually, or we're in big trouble. So our brain is absolutely habitual. Our body gets sensitized, perhaps, I don't know, but our body's a machine too that is easily conditioned and easily programmed, and a very habitual machine as well. So we're talking about machinery. We're talking about a brain and a body that are habitual machines, oriented toward that, oriented toward repeating things. So see if you can kind of set that on one side. See, like, oh, that's what my machinery does. Yeah, stuff comes back sometimes. But Sarah, like, here's the thing. When we start to back up and see that in a much bigger context, when we see beyond just the machine's doing this and I want the machine to do something else, when we can kind of, even just the conversation we're having right now, where we're talking about it as a machine and looking at how this machine works that isn't you, so much space is available in that. Then we get to start to look more toward the fluidity that you mentioned, that you've noted, that is like, okay, I like this metaphor. It feels like things do flow through me like a river. That's a great feeling. Before the but comes in of, yeah, but why do they come back so often? And why is it the same stuff all the time? So we just kind of see, okay, this brain and this body, just habitual machines, and yeah, they'll bring stuff back up, especially stuff that has gotten a ton of attention, especially stuff that we've resisted, that we've given names to and we've judged innocently, you know, that we've tightened around, that we write asking me questions about, you know, like, I don't like this stuff. Well, all that attention and passion just primes the machine to, like, kind of remember it and think it's important and keep it going even more and more. So it isn't a problem. It isn't terminal. There's absolutely a way out, but I just want to say this a bit to kind of set up, you know, why the habitual machine works the way it does. It's just all for our greatest good, and it's all working perfectly well. So yeah, stuff feels like, especially stuff that you're calling anxiety and nasty inner experiences, You're going to notice them coming up more and more, or habitually, let's say. But there's a bigger sense where there's a bigger you, there's a bigger awareness, the you that sent in this question, that's able to kind of see, oh, this is experience flowing through me. And rather than say, okay, it needs to flow down there far, far away and never come back, we get to focus on the flow part. We get to focus on the always changing, always refreshing, always getting something new. Is some of that repeated? Sure. But there's such a huge difference, so hard to put into words, but a huge, huge difference when we aren't caught up in what's flowing down the river and how we think it should go and what we think it should be, the frequency we think it should have. And we're just saying, wow, there's motion here. You know, there's flow here, there's fluidity here, there's constantly refreshing. What happens there, now this isn't just like a little mental trick or focus on this, but what starts to happen when we look there is what we see and experience changes. It really does change, because all we ever feel and experience in life is where our mind is what we're thinking up. So, and I've been here, Sarah, so many times with many things in life, when we're in this little place of this keeps showing up and it shouldn't and I don't like it, huge in our experience, huge. And that goes for anything. It goes for anxiety, it goes for physical stuff, it goes for thought habits, it goes for any other kind of thing we're mentally just on. It goes for our little theories that we're stuck in life, or we're this kind of person, or we have a relationship issue, or we don't know what we want to do in our career, and we keep thinking about it and carrying it around as if it's a real thing. Well, it's not a real thing. It's just thought. And it's habitual thought that we think is real. So, oh my God, of course it's going to feel more and more real. Of course it's going to start to feel so stable. Of course, every little inkling of it is going to be proof in our minds of, yeah, it's coming back. So what good is this river? Feeling stuff, anxiety was huge for me in this regard too, and I think for a lot of people. But because how it goes is like you have this sort of belief about it, or even let's just say theory about it, and you're obviously willing to see it differently, and I'm not saying you're grabbing onto it, you know, you want it to be different or we wouldn't be talking. So so you have this theory about it, or this observation of it, that, man, it just keeps the same stuff, keeps recycling through my river. Well, what that's going to start to do is anytime you start to feel a little twinge somewhere, or a little thought that's reminiscent of anxious thought, a little feeling that's reminiscent of anxious feeling, all of a sudden it's like, yep, put a stamp on it, you're a repeat, you're the same thing over and over again, I'm not free. And again, I'm not, Sarah, suggesting that you're sitting there saying this in your head and doing this on purpose or consciously even, but you see what I mean? Like when we have that, when we think it works a certain way, we just kind of can't help but confirm our expectations. So where I want you to go with this is just start to see, okay, don't worry about what's coming down the river best you can. Set that aside a little bit. Yes, you're absolutely right. Habitual stuff comes down the river. We see the same stuff at that level. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff over and over again. But where I want you to get curious is where you are, what you asked, like, where does this river go? But I'll say it a different way, which is like, what's beneath this river? What's beneath all that surface stuff that feels like it's just repeating and slapping you in the face all the time? What's beneath that? And if you can kind of look less at what is coming down your river and look more at the fact, exactly like you said about that author, that stuff comes through us and our body and our mind, and every single thing in this amazing system and this amazing machine that we have is working toward health and homeostasis 100% all the time. I love that you said that, because obviously that resonated with you. That already, you're further ahead in all this than you think you are, because that touched you, and that was something that you thought to bring up for a reason, because it did, it resonated, and it is absolutely the place to look. So it's like, oh, maybe all this is coming up because it needs to kind of just get washed away. Now, sometimes people get a little in there and start thinking, oh, maybe I need to process this, or I need to do something with it, or I need to see something about it. I don't think so. But, you know, do what makes sense to you, you know, do what occurs to you around it. But bigger than all that, again, it's out of the what's coming down the river and, oh, I felt this yesterday. Why am I feeling it again? I felt it at 2 o'clock. Why is it back at 4 o'clock? We just want to see, oh my gosh, isn't it amazing that it's always moving and it's always changing? And new stuff, maybe old stuff too, but new stuff is constantly showing up. And the more we look at that level, so it's like looking a little bit deeper in the river, the more of that you see, because your mind isn't such a magnet for anything that matches what you think is going to show up. Does that make sense? Because that's so huge. I really hope that kind of makes sense. It's like, you know, like the cheesy examples everybody talks about, but this is a little different level of it. But it's like if you are looking to buy a red Toyota, you go drive around, you're going to see red Toyotas all over, right? I mean, it's a similar thing. It's like same stuff in my river, same stuff in my river. When am I going to be free of anxiety? Well, any little match to anxiety, poof, it's blown up and expanded in your head like it's gigantic. And it's only because of that thing. So that thinking that's looking for it and grabbing it. So we want to just go deeper. Like, okay, yeah, I don't care what showed up. All kinds of repetitive, habitual stuff is the what that showed up. But yeah, it comes and it goes. Crazy that it always goes, huh? And it flows through me. And new stuff can show up. And you just want to kind of be in that natural flow of it. And I love, again, that you kind of have this sense that there is a greater intelligence behind it. I don't want to say too much about that because I don't know exactly how that works. But there is this sense of like, maybe this stuff that's coming up is just our mind or our body or both kind of working through whatever it needs to work through so it can move it out. But we need to help it. We don't need to, but it's better when we help it. It's better for us when we help it. So we can help it, again, by not getting too caught up in the content of it and by just looking more at this washing out, flushing out sort of process, the bigger thing that's happening beneath the surface. So thank you for your question, Sarah. I hope it's helpful. Again, guys, it applies to everything. This isn't about anxiety. It's about any experience that feels like that. So I hope something in here has been helpful. So I'm going to go try to stay up until bedtime, see how it goes. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week, and I'll see you back next week.